Our adventure begins in a remote town in Canada called Wichita Falls, where three boys and a girl always hung out together. But little did they know, their lives were about to change. One afternoon, they discovered a mysterious old map that hinted at hidden treasures nearby, igniting a sense of adventure within them. With the map guiding them, they made their way to the edge of the forest, excitement bubbling as they prepared to uncover secrets that had long been buried. As they ventured deeper into the woods, they encountered stunning sights, each step filled with laughter and anticipation of what lay ahead. As they traveled in the woods looking for treasure, they realized they were lost, and the sun was slowly setting over the horizon. Soon night would be here, so they started looking for a way out. Feeling a growing sense of urgency, they scanned their surroundings in search of familiar paths, their hearts racing as the chirping of crickets grew louder with the encroaching night. The boy pointed toward a faint trail visible between the trees, his face reflecting hope, while the girl looked on with a mix of determination and fear, ready to follow whatever path lay ahead. Lara, the girl of the group, started down the trail, brushing away thorns and branches that overgrew the path, with the sun barely providing any light. John questioned if they should follow it, while Jack confidently replied, "Yes, idiot. Where else do we go?" Jim just shrugged and followed Lara. As they ventured deeper, Lara's confidence grew, inspiring the others to push past their doubts. Jack, always the jokester, exclaimed about the hidden treasures they might find, while Jim and John shared wary looks, unsure of what lay ahead. As the trail ended, they saw a ruined cabin, but as night was upon them, it started to slowly rain. Jack was like, "Yes, Lara wet shirt contest." Lara rolled her eyes as Jim said, "Are we going, or are we going to stare at Lara's nips all day?" Jack said, "I'm fine." The rain intensified, creating puddles around the cabin as Jack playfully nudged Lara, showcasing his mischievous grin. Lara stood with her arms crossed, wearing a skeptical expression, while Jim observed the scene with an amused look, drops of rain cascading down his jacket. The cabin's interior glowed warmly with the firelight, creating a cozy atmosphere. The teens settled in, and Lara couldn't resist throwing a soft pillow at Jack, who dramatically pretended to defend himself, laughter filling the room. As the four teens went into the cabin, Jack remarked that this place is getting a low rating on Airbnb, pointing to a spider in the corner. Lara chimed in, teasing Jack about the spider possibly being a relative of his. Meanwhile, Jim and John were hard at work trying to get a fire started in the fireplace, and after several attempts, they finally succeeded. Jack burst into laughter, while Lara rolled her eyes, a mixture of frustration and amusement swirling in the air. The trio sat on their beds, sharing playful jabs that filled the cabin with laughter, the flickering light of the lantern casting playful shadows around them. The teens were growing weary after a long day in the woods. Inside the cabin, Jack turned to Lara and asked, "Aren't you cold? Get undressed and we can share a bed." With a sarcastic tone, Lara replied, "No thanks. I'd prefer to sleep with a bear." Jack chuckled, responding, "Of course you would. They are tall, dark, won't work, will be at you, use you, and leave you when they're done." As Lara, Jack, and Jim sat on a bed goofing off, a scream erupted throughout the cabin. They followed the scream to John's room, where he was pointing in fear. In the darkness, a pair of red eyes were looking back at them, and slowly they started moving. The four stunned teenagers stood frozen, preparing for the worst, when suddenly a possum ran between them, trying to escape. The moment was filled with a mix of fear and surprise as the teenagers gasped, their expressions caught between disbelief and amusement. The possum panicked and bewildered scurried across the floor, its wide eyes reflecting the dim light. The cabin erupted into laughter and relief, transforming their fright into a shared moment of hilarity. Lara started laughing. "Your red-eyed mom needs to shave." He said she already did. "Should have seen her yesterday," Jack exclaimed, as a bolt of lightning quietened the dimly lit cabin, with the ambient fireplace providing the only light source. John gets on his cell phone. "Of course, no service," he says. John, with a frustrated expression, held his cell phone up to his ear, the warmth of the cabin contrasting with the storm outside. Jack and Lara sat on a worn-out couch, both bursting into laughter, immersed in the cozy charm of their surroundings. They were picking rooms. Lara, John, and Jim would get a room. Jack would get the couch. Lara wanted to sit by the fire on the couch to warm up before bed. Jack was there on the couch, and she said, "Get up real quick." Jack replied, "Do you want Jack off the couch?" Lara chuckled at Jack's remark teasingly, pushing him further down the couch. The warmth from the fire enveloped them, creating an inviting space for their banter as John and Jim exchanged glances, enjoying the camaraderie. After they all went to bed, John heard a loud banging outside his room. He looked out his window and saw a massive creature standing there. Squinting into the night, he noticed the creature tapping on the window. Panic surged through him, and he ran screaming from the room. Terrified, John dashed down the dimly lit hallway, his heart racing as he sought refuge from the nightmare. Behind him, the creature's silhouette grew larger, its glowing eyes casting a chilling light across the walls. John ran into Jim's room, causing Jim to sit up in fear. Shining his phone flashlight at John, he exclaimed, "What the heck, bro? It's 1:30 a.m. Why are you in my room?" John shouted back about a massive creature being outside his bedroom window. Lara and Jack came in as well to see what was happening. The tension in the room thickened as John's voice trembled with urgency, describing the creature lurking just outside. Jim's eyes widened further, and he exchanged worried glances with Lara and Jack, who had appeared to support their friends in this moment of fear. As the four teens enter the room, they heard a loud tapping, and as they got closer, they see it's a tree branch tapping the window. Jack runs past Jim, John, and Lara and screams, "No, not a tree! My one true fear!" as he breaks out laughing. Jim shakes his head, chuckling at Jack's reaction, while John's teasing words fill the room. "What are you going to do, climb a tree next?" Lara adds with a giggle. "You're safe, Jack. It's just a branch." Jack leaves the room and says, "If any more lumber attacks you, I'll be here for you, John," chuckling as Lara and Jim tease, "Ignore Jack. He's the slow one of the group." As the four of them return to bed another hour later, Lara wakes up and says to John, "Come with me." John, surprised, asks, "What's going on?" She replies, "Hurry, follow." As they tiptoe out of the bedroom, the silence of the night is broken by strange sounds echoing through the house. With each step, Lara glances back at John, her eyes wide with anticipation, while John clutches the doorframe, nervously whispering, "What if it's just the wind?" As they walk through the creaky cabin, Lara grabs John's arm and says, "Jim's missing." John replies, "What do you mean missing?" Lara explains that Jim went out in the rain to pee, since the cabin doesn't have a restroom, and he never came back. As they approach Jack's room, they open the door, but Jack is already walking towards them, asking, "What's going on? I could hear you down the hall." Lara's heart races as she explains the situation to Jack, and he frowns, sensing something is off. "We need to find him," Jack insists, glancing nervously towards the door they had just come from. Together, the trio makes their way toward the entrance, the rain pattering ominously against the roof, heightening their unease. Lara, Jack, and John searched the cabin. Then the trip went outside, but Jim was nowhere to be found. As they walked by the front door again, they saw a small trail of blood leading outside into the rain, all three wondering what the heck is going on. With hearts racing, Lara stepped cautiously onto the wet grass outside the cabin, scanning the darkening woods. Jack and John stood beside her, pointing toward a shadowy figure. In the distance, their bodies tense and alert. They looked as a massive figure stood looking at them and threw something at them. It was Jim's shirt, wet and torn. Then the creature disappeared. John said, "Now do you believe me?" Jack was for once just frozen, and Lara walked backwards slowly towards the cabin. John stood with his mouth agape, his eyes wide with disbelief, as he glanced at Jack, who was still stunned, his body rigid and unmoving in the dim light of the forest. Lara, with a look of determination mixed with fear, took a cautious step back, her gaze darting towards the darkened cabin, while the trees loomed tall around her. The three of them ran into the cabin and slammed the door, with Jack exclaiming, "What the heck, what the heck?" as everyone looked shocked. They decided to pull the beds into the living room so they could be close to each other, with one staying awake while the other two slept. As the darkness enveloped the cabin, Jack, holding a flashlight, nervously scanned the dimly lit room. Sarah and Mike lay under blankets, their eyes wide with anticipation, while Jack remained alert, ready to protect them. As Jack fell asleep on guard duty, Lara woke him up urgently, saying, "Wake up, idiot! Where's John Jack?" And Lara looked around only to find that John was gone, and then they noticed a trail of blood beside his bed leading outside. "Oh my God!" Lara exclaimed. "You let him die! You let him die! I won't forgive you!" Jack, now wide awake, frantically searched the campsite, with a flashlight in hand, panic and regret etched across his face. Lara stood with her arms crossed, her eyes filled with tears and anger glaring at Jack as the dark forest loomed ominously behind them. Lara tries to run out of the cabin, crying out, "I won't die! You killed them, Jack! You let them die!" Tears flow down her cheeks as she confronts him in desperation. Jack, pulled by emotion, falls to his knees in front of her tears, in his own eyes exclaiming, "I'm sorry, I love you as my friend. I would never hurt you." He cries harder, overwhelmed by the weight of the moment. In the flash of lightning, Lara stands frozen, torn between anger and fear, the storm raging outside mirroring her inner turmoil. Jack, still on his knees, clasps his hands together, desperately seeking her forgiveness, his heart aching as he tries to reach out to her amid the chaos. Jack, on his knees, said, "We've been friends since we were 3 years old. I love you, Lara." Lara, bewildered daze, what ignoring the spooky lighting in the eerie cabin. "I pick on you, so you'll notice me. I've always been alone, but I'm happy with you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I'm sorry." As Jack looked up at her, his voice trembled with emotion, ensuring every word resonated in the stillness of the cabin. Lara, feeling the truth behind his words, began to process the depth of their friendship and the feelings that had always lingered beneath the surface. In the safety of Jim's room, Jack and Lara huddled together, their eyes filled with dread as the sound of the monsters crashing against the door echoes in their ears. The door vibrates with each pounding blow, casting unsettling shadows on the walls, intensifying the feeling of terror that surrounds them. Tears stream down Jack and Lara's faces as Lara leans forward to kiss Jack, but suddenly the door slams open and 2 massive monsters enter the cabin. Jack and Lara find themselves cornered, and with a surge of adrenaline, Jack pulls Lara past them and down the hall at the last second. They rush into Jim's room, quickly closing and blocking the door, just as the monsters slam into it. As Jack and Lara huddle together, the monsters knock down the door and grab Lara. She screams, "Help me, Jack! Save me!" As he runs after her, the monster slams the door into Jack's face, knocking him unconscious, while Lara continues to scream for Jack to save her. Desperate and terrified, Lara is pulled further into the shadows, her heart racing as she struggles against the grip of the creature. The once quiet room now echoes with her cries, "Jack!" as she fights to break free. In the stillness of the cabin, Jack's heart races with fear and sorrow as he whispers their names into the silence, hoping for a response. His fingers trace the edges of a photograph, the memories flooding back, laughter echoing in his mind, contrasting sharply with the desolation around him. Jack wakes up and checks the cabins for anyone. "Jim, are you here, Lara? Please answer me. John, come here now." He realizes they are truly gone, and in despair, he falls down praying, "Please don't go. Please don't go. No! Please, I love you all. Stay with me. Come back." I need you. I can't go on without you guys, please. As he sits there crying, the cabin door opens again. 3 monsters enter this time. Jack just sits there. He says, "Kill me. I give up. You took everything from me. I loved her. Those 2 were my friends." One of the monsters leans right up to his face, opens its mouth wide and says, "Come here, beautiful. I love you too." Jack's confused. That sounds like Jim, and the monster rips off its head. It is Jim. Jim says, "Oh, I love you too." Jack blowing a fake kiss at Jack. The other 2 rip off their heads. Lara, John, it's them. As the 3 of them take off the monster masks, Lara, John, and Jim said, "This year we pranked you. You get us every year. This time we scared you." As Lara walks up and says, "What now, dork? Do you have the balls to ask me out?" Jack smiles. "You jerks, I love you all," he says with happy tears coming down his face. Lara playfully nudges Jack's shoulder, her expression a mix of challenge and teasing, while John and Jim stand beside them, with smirks ready for the next move in their playful banter. The scene shifts to an outdoor setting, with autumn leaves falling around them as the group shares laughter, capturing the warmth of friendship and the spirit of Halloween.